I would like to call to order the November 21st, 2023 meeting of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to all in attendance, to Township staff and my fellow commissioners. Just a friendly reminder for everyone in attendance to please silence your devices at this time. Mr. Becker, can we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Mr. Bachman?
Here.
Mr. Gehring?
Here.
Mr. Westfall?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
And Ms. McMullen?
Here. So we have a discussion about minutes, please.
So we wrapped up with 10:17 and 11:2's minutes. We sent that your way this morning. Needed a little bit more time to send that in there, so we are going to table/continue all three of those and wrap up 9:19 as well, throw that in, and that way we'll have them approved for next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next we would like to welcome members of the public to address the Zoning Commission with any items on tonight's agenda. However, if you are here to speak at any of the public hearings, you will speak during that time of the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the Zoning Commission for anything that's not in a public hearing? I know you're a public hearing. You're a public hearing. Anyone not in a public hearing? Okay. All right, so for tonight, there are no final development plans. So that does bring us to the first of our public hearings tonight. So first up is zoning case ZA 2023-16, a zoning text amendment to Article 8415, which is mobile food services. And Mr. Becker, if you have a presentation, please.
I do. Thank you for the introduction. And just to preface real quick, so the way that I'll structure this is I have it so I have the current zoning regulations regarding mobile food services, and then I have what it looks like with the changes marked up, and then I have what it will be finally proposed. So what I'll go over, so that way it's very clear as to what will be changing and what is added and removed. I'll simply go over the ones with the markups on it. And then online, as well as in the PowerPoint that'll be posted to Waycross, you can see both the current one that exists and what it will look like completely new. So as Ms. McMullen mentioned, this will be a text amendment to Articles 8.4.15 and 8.2. This is for mobile food services, and this is prepared by Colerain Township Planning and Zoning staff. As for a little bit of case history, so back in 2021, that'd be September 21st, Colerain Township staff presented the first proposed text amendment for case ZA 2021-07. That was incorporating mobile food services into B1 zoning district specifically, and in doing so establishing a set of conditions that each applicant must meet for them to obtain a zoning certificate for a mobile food service operation. At the January 11th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting, a motion was then set to hold a public hearing on the matter at the February 8th meeting. At this meeting, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees then signed Resolution 10-22, which incorporated Exhibit A as a text amendment to the Colerain Township zoning resolution. And as I mentioned, both online and in the presentation, this will be Exhibit A. This is what currently exists. It is also in our zoning resolution right now. And this goes from A through X, I believe. Yep. And then there's our definitions. That was added to 16. And once again, to reiterate, the proposed sections that we will be amending would be 8.2, the permitted uses, and 8.4.15, that is the mobile food services conditions. So here's the proposed use table. As mentioned, that incorporates it being permitted with conditions in both the B2 and the B3 on top of the already established B1. As for what we intend to amend in 8.4.15, starting right off, as mentioned, adding in the B2 and B3 districts. As for front yard setbacks, we eliminated the provision that states 5 feet must be, or that a mobile food service unit must be 5 feet from an established right-of-way. Instead, we amended that to be the mobile food vending service shall not be in any required site distance triangle, buffer or right-of-way. And then as for B, we updated that if a right-of-way has not been established, that the setback must be 30 feet instead of 40 feet. And then we added in provision D, which states such uses may be allowed in a public right-of-way if that right-of-way is closed in accordance with an approved road closure permit and the use is approved by the township. As for provisions 3 and 4 on the screen right there, we removed them and had those tied in to the amended point A right there on front yard setback. We also got rid of, right there on section E, the provision for the maximum number of food trucks that are allowed on a site in relation to square footage of sites, particularly the minimum 10,000 square feet that is required for just one mobile food service operation, and then the additional 5,000 square feet for a maximum of 3. We also amended the hours by 1 hour for both weekdays and weekends. So for weekdays, instead of operations being ceased at 10 p.m., we amended that to be 11 p.m. And likewise, on Friday and Saturday, we amended that from 11 p.m. to midnight. As for point G, we amended the parking of mobile food service operations to no longer be required to have 4 minimum parking spaces. As for H, we amended the residential purposes section to include for special events, that being temporary mobile food service operations may be permitted in residential neighborhoods upon review and approval from the zoning administrator for a maximum 3-day period. The temporary mobile food service operation must adhere to all provisions established within this section, including the appropriate licenses and approval from the Colerain Township Fire Department. Temporary mobile food services permitted in residential neighborhoods must cease operation once that approved time period ends. As for point I, we removed the noise or sound amplification condition that would be covered by noise ordinances within the township. As for point J, we amended the signage section to highlight that signs may be affixed or detached for mobile operation. This includes A-type board menus, that's supposed to say, if detached, a maximum of 2 A-frame type menu boards of up to 24 square feet, no longer 16, would be permitted to be placed by the mobile food service operation, and still that must be located within 10 feet of the point of sale area. A mobile food service operation is allowed 2 small lawn type signs of up to 6 square feet per sign. This was added. Detached signs shall not be placed in the right-of-way and must be stored away after close. Attached signs shall not extend beyond the height, width, nor length of the mobile food service unit itself. We also amended point K to include that no banners, balloons, streamers, or now inflatables may be utilized. And then as for point M, we removed the provision that states that every 20 days within a 30-day period that a mobile food service operation is active, that on-site dining facilities shall be provided. We removed we amended point N, to highlight that supplies or materials shall be appropriately screened rather than completely stored away from public viewing during hours of operation, and then when at close, that those items must be stored away appropriately. As for point O, we amended it to highlight that there shall be no distribution of alcoholic beverages without a valid license, that is. And then we removed point S, which highlights that mobile food service operations that have ceased for operations for a period of 4 days shall be required to vacate the site. And then we removed point V, that highlights written approval from the zoning administrator shall be required prior to the application and installation of any temporary electric service related to the mobile food operations. We will be leaving this to the county. And lastly, and most importantly, as for point W, we changed that the zoning certificate for a mobile food service operation will now be valid for an entire fiscal year beginning from March 1st and ending February 28th. Zoning certificates that are issued after March 1st in a particular fiscal year will be charged a prorated amount for the fiscal year ending February 28th. And zoning certificates that were issued on or before December 1st of a particular fiscal year will be charged a prorated amount to include the following fiscal year. And likewise, in doing so, we remove points 1 and 2, which highlight that you have to come back every 30 days for renewal and that you can only have a maximum of 2 certificates per year. And again, highlighting that use table that we now included B2 and B3. And as mentioned, this is what it looks like when it's all said and done, and this is, again, online and will be available on Waycross later. And to wrap up, we recommend approval for case ZA 2023-16, the zoning text amendment to the Colerain Township resolution, particularly for Articles 8.4.15 and 8.2. That will conclude our staff report on mobile food services.
Thank you. All right, so that does bring us to our public hearing. So we do need a motion and a second to open our public hearing.
Make a motion that we open a public hearing on this particular item.
I'll second that.
Mr. Becker, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
And Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Okay, and we do have one person signed in to speak. So we will need to do a swearing in. If anyone who wants to speak during this public hearing could stand and raise your right hand, Mr. Miller will swear you in.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. So if you would like to come up, Mr. Swafford, that's fine. And for the record, you'll state your name and address, please.
Name's Brian Swafford, Colerain graduate, Colerain resident, owner-operator, Big Bear Barbecue, located 3209 American Trading Company parking lot, address 6150 Thompson Road. Well, everything now I was going to touch on is up and change. I appreciate that. The only I don't know if I necessarily seen it. The one issue I did have, I read through everything, would be the garbage cans and the picnic tables. That's one less thing I got to worry about at the end of the night. The picnic table is what to do with it at the end of the night. Load it in my truck, get rid of it. If I leave it there, it's just a reason for someone to hang out, cause trouble. You know, we don't need all that. Trash, everything else. Garbage as well. It's a carry out. It's not, you don't stick around and eat, get in your car and go home and enjoy. I don't sell drinks. So as far as that with the garbage can, that's just, again, one less issue. Yeah, like I said, I had a whole bunch of points to point out, but everything that I was going to talk about is up for change. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for bringing this up, discussing and going for a change and letting food trucks back into Colerain Township.
Right, and just to answer your question real quick, so the picnic table, that is a strike through on M. Can you bring that back up, please? So it's at the very bottom, so picnic tables, yep, so they are out. L, that will still require a trash can within 10 feet, and then the trash just needs to be removed every night.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for coming out and advocating for all fellow food trucks, not just yourself. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak on mobile food services? Nope. Okay. Then we will need a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
The question I guess I had was in the past, from a regulatory standpoint, in the past it was 30 days. Was that a challenge for the staff in terms of the reissuing of permits, or was it not even an issue because people weren't getting the permits?
Well, first of all, people weren't getting permits. I think the discussion amongst the administration and really residents and certainly businesses that the requirements were too stringent, and 30 days seemed like that was a challenge. So we called the county and asked what their requirements were, and we aligned our requirements with them. So as the mobile food service operators worked through the county to get all their licensing and permitting, ours will be aligned with theirs, and so it'll make it easier for them, and I think that's the efficiency of that change.
That includes the prorated portion too. So we wanted to try to make it as consistent as we possibly could.
Any other questions? Okay. Would anyone entertain a motion?
I motion we approve the adjustments or the amendments as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bachman,
Yes.
Mr. Gehring,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
and Ms. McMullen.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you for bringing it back. And thank you again.
Now, you can leave if you like, or you can stay. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave if you like. Thanks.
All right, so our next public hearing is for zoning case ZA 2023-17, a zoning map amendment to 3541 and 3551 Banning Road. And Mr. Becker, do you have a presentation?
Of course. Thank you, Ms. McMullen, for the introduction. Once again, just to restate, this is ZA 2023-17. We are working with 3541 and 3551 Banning Road. The applicant is particularly requesting a zoning map amendment that is from R6 to B1. Once again, the applicant in this case, that'd be Jonathan Wolker, that is with McBride Dale Clarion, and the property owner is Rick Davis with R&K Developers. Starting us off once again with our zoning map, we are working in the bottom right corner there, a very small dot. And zoomed in here, you can highlight the difference between the R6 and the B1 zoning right there. The physical map zoomed out. Zoomed in. This is zoning map, more zoomed in again. Property map. And lastly, our topo map. So once again, to reiterate, the applicant is seeking to rezone the two properties in question from R6 to B1. That is particularly due to the positive development potential that is associated with the two, and the site as a whole, that is. As for our case history, case ZA 2023-17 was originally heard at last month's meeting, and it was continued until today. Once again, here's the application, letter of intent. Here's that site plan they submitted. And again, and to reiterate, those are the two parcels highlighted are the ones that are up for the rezoning. And additionally, we wanted to add, these were the pictures on site before the October meeting. And now here's the site as of last week. Once again, to reiterate, the zoning resolution and the relevant information for this case, that would be section 4.3 text and map amendments, particularly 4.3.1 amendment initiation, and then 4.3.4 review criteria, and 1.1.1, that is our purpose statement. So really quickly, 4.3.1 amendment initiation, amendments or supplements to the zoning resolution may be initiated by the filing of an application by one or more of the owners of property within the area proposed to be changed or affected by the proposed amendment. 4.3.4 review criteria, the amendment is in accordance with the Colerain Township Comp Plan, the Colerain Township Land Use Plan, other adopted plans or policies of the township, this resolution, and lastly, 1.1.1, except as otherwise provided in the section, that the request is in the interest of public health and safety and in the interest of the public convenience, comfort, prosperity, or general welfare. So as for our staff findings, The rezoning of 3541 and 3551 Banning Road to B1 brings forth significant development potential that is otherwise stagnant through R6 zoning. And therefore, we recommend for approval of KZA 2023-17 with no conditions. That will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we need a motion to resume our public hearing.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. And at this time, we do need to swear in the individuals who plan to speak at tonight's public hearing. So if you could all please stand.
All right. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
And to start off, Mr. Becker, is the applicant available?
Yes, he is.
Hi, and for the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Woker. I'm a planner with McBride Dale Colerain. My address is 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio 45227. And I am representing Rick Davis and Arcade Developers. Mr. Davis is here this evening and intends to speak as well. Staff has presented the application. You recall we were here about a month ago. We are asking for a zone map amendment from R6 to B1. This is about 0.7 acres of property on Banning Road. And as I presented last month, Arcade Developers and Mr. Davis entities own approximately 1.8 acres of land adjacent to the west of these two parcels that are zoned B1. And we believe that rezoning these two parcels will allow for a redevelopment opportunity that will create a 2.6 acre plus or minus development site. Our intent would be to, if this is rezoned, to then consolidate these properties, engage a developer, redevelop this site, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. We believe that the B1 zoning does have development potential, and conversely that the R6 as currently zoned is not very strong development options for these two properties. So we believe that the rezoning is supported by the development potential for this area. We agree with the staff's findings that we meet the redevelopment standards as far as the zone map amendment is concerned. Since the time that we met in October, there have been meetings with Mr. Davis and the township staff at the site. Mr. Davis has worked on addressing the concerns that were raised during the meeting about material on the property. I'm going to ask him to speak about the efforts that he's made in that location. Mr. Davis has also talked to Mr. Cowan, who was here at the previous meeting, about the property. He has proposed to install landscaping and enhance screening on that property. That offer is still one that we support and are willing to do. If this is zoned as we are requesting, there would need to be buffering and screening required between any residential and business development, and we would intend to comply with those requirements. Long-term, the plan is for Mr. Davis to move the business to a new location in Colerain Township, and in fact, that operation to move is currently underway. And then the plan would be, if rezoned, again, consolidate the lots, and then we would have an opportunity to engage a developer that would have a 2.6 acre development parcel that we believe has a good potential for redevelopment. And I also think that it's important to say we believe that the rezoning allows that redevelopment to happen. So while we acknowledge that there are some conditions that the township asked us to address, we do believe that being able to redevelop this property happens with this rezoning. So I'm going to ask Mr. Davis to come up and give you some background on the efforts he's made, and I will look forward to trying to answer questions, or if you have any right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis? And for the record, please state your name and address as well.
I'm Rick Davis, 5346 Race Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45247. I've been a resident of the White Oak, Colerain area all my life. My business has been at this place for the majority of my time. First of all, I apologize. I had a vacation that was planned last month, and we were supposed to be on the docket. Our team was trying to present by September. That didn't happen until obviously October, or I would have been here. I didn't know that there was some disgruntled issues. I don't by any means want to be a bad neighbor. I have always followed zoning regulations. I'm always first in line for permits. So I've been a builder since 1980 when I graduated from college. And incidentally, our property has got beautification award 2 times. It's just recently, bear in mind that recently we have started our moving process. We permitted to be where we are, and we went through the whole zoning issue of whether we could be there or not be there. It was permitted. The township and the building department was out on our operation. We started in 2004 there with the fire of Arsco Radiator Company was there prior to that. Traffic has such developed now that there are issues with specifically tractor trailer deliveries of items. It was always my wish to put together a piece of monopoly like such and do something with it. However, there is a bottleneck issue going here with the one map, Justin, that you had up of the zoning, the R6, that one there, kind of bottlenecks it. The B1 is wide, it narrows through there. Jeff Webler across the street is a buddy. He's done a lot of R6 improvement over there as well. And then the B1 opens up again. So like Jonathan mentioned, it enables more of a straight line through there. With the backdrop line to the east is more of a straight line, and it just makes sense. The frontage, as you've seen the aerials of all the buildings, those buildings are proposed to be gone away with. They are dinosaurs. They were of their time when residences could back out onto the thoroughfare. That can't happen anymore. Those buildings are going to be taken down. It is my wish. Some, as my son presented in October, some of the cleanup had started. Some of it is material that we have brought in because the landfills are such today that everything there is going to be sorted. The cost-effective means of sorting is for landfills is more effective. So most concrete and stuff and debris will be crushed, and so that it can be hauled off and sorted appropriately. The 2 pictures at hand there, I guess, is what's the crowd in question. Again, I apologize. We have migrated onto the space because we were trying to preserve our turning radiuses as such in our day-to-day operation. It required us to store onto the R6, and the things that were there were storages of gravels, and that is concrete. The stuff that was on the site were I don't think you got a picture of it, the old concrete bins. Those were bins of sorted sizes and shapes of gravels. That's primarily what we were using the R6 for. It's the back of the residence and then egress to Banning Road. So again, it's something that the business has grown and just unsuspected to us. And, the next thing we're creeping onto the space. We have met recently, as Jonathan said, with David, Justin, and Stan, both out on the site. And you know, it's not it was not very presentable the way it was with the concrete, but that is a resource that will be turned into 304 and number 2 gravel to provide staging areas, off-site travel to keep the road clean, and for the future development. Some of the buildings that are in there are post-war buildings. The foundations are concrete, large concrete. So it's our hope to sort through those. There's a staging process. If it's loaded with steel, we have to crush and remove the steel, so on and so forth. A little bit more in depth than this meeting needs, but I just and again, like I started to say, we met with the township out in the field as to what we might do to make it presentable. So we removed some dumpsters in my day-to-day operation. Our new building is out at 275, still in the Colerain Township area. Most of our equipment is moved there already, which is an easy move. Incidentally, let me be clear that it was a wish from the township that we stayed very insignificant there. We had stockade fencing and motorized gate along Blue Rock Road with heavy Norway pines. The visual capability from Banning, there was a weedy wooded area there. We have removed the wooded area because that had to be sorted and taken to its proper place, and we have done that. That has left the opportunity for rubbernecking, if you will. Traffic going by and seeing what's going on there. It's got quite a stir as far as what is the future of it. So again, that being said, it was never my intention to run onto the misuse of property as such, but I have always cared for my property. The property is always presentable, and all the buildings were presentable, so it's not my nature to be that way. So again, Jonathan mentioned, I talked to, he mentioned Mark Cowan. Mark Cowan is a renter to the east. I was unable to get further occupants to the east and communicate with them, but Mark was there and available, and I went over and introduced him, myself to him. I had given him a proposal to, if he so desires, to thicken or give the owner of the building a message that we could thicken the area for him, do some spotted plantings. However, our proposal, any proposal as such, development proposal, will have a demanded green space, probably raised berm type of thing with greenery on it. I think it's minimum is a 30-foot requirement. So, but we'll go further. If greenery is the the necessity for the community, then we'll extend our hand, to help that situation. But with that being said, that's all I've got. If there's any questions, here I am. It's pretty simple. I mean,
I don't know that there's a question. I drove by there about an hour ago on the way here, and frankly, it looks fairly dilapidated on the entire corner. It's not a space that I'd want to have my house next to. So let's just put it that way. I hear what you're saying.
people have been removed.
Yeah, but when will they be removed and cleared? The properties, in other words, are made presentable. It looks like something I would see downtown.
Okay, and you're talking about all the buildings or what?
Buildings on the corner, yeah, the entire, from where this house is now, all the way around there looks pretty bad to me. What's your immediate plans in the next 30 days?
Well, we have left. We are leaving. It doesn't happen overnight. Our building is done. We are moving. A lot of things are already gone. The demolition process, bear in mind, I would wish or hope that it's the judgment of the board that the demolition process is all done at one time,
Okay?
so that the mess is done and gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, golly, I would think it would be too costly to drop a house this, this week and next week drop another one. So in the event of getting rid of everybody, some had to be dealt with differently, but the two businesses that were renting there, both have retired.
Okay?
There's been all kind of information as to what's happened there, that I turned the water off, I've heard everything.
I'm not saying that, but when should I drive by next and see those houses and those businesses raised? You tell me.
That's a good question. I think what I would prefer to do is give you a date of demolition
Okay?
and say that it's all gonna be gone and cleaned up,
Okay?
so that you have a clean site.
And when is that date?
I can have that probably done as soon as possible, but I would think that it would be spring going into winter.
Okay?
I would think, right now, utilities are still being removed from the main trunk lines,
Mm-hmm.
so that when demolition occurs, utilities aren't pulled. The underground utilities, water, gas, those things are ongoing. And they take a tremendous amount of time
So
and coordination.
I interpret that as being like the April, May timeframe.
Yeah, I think that what we could do is propose that to you. So, and give you that date. I agree, they're ghostly as short of anything. I mean, to look at the buildings, they're ghostly.
Mm-hmm.
There's bright orange and green stickers on the doors from the utility companies saying that we have disconnected. People literally pull in there and park and get out and walk up to the door to try to gain notice of what's going on. Those are standard stickers from Duke and so forth, the utility companies saying, hey, these utilities are free and clear for here now.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a challenge to get Duke and some of these utility companies coordinated. It's amazing, but a time is due, so that's fair game.
Okay.
Question for you. So, I guess, obviously, you're here for rezoning, as mentioned in your testimony, as well as Jonathan's. You're trying to market the site. You're trying to get it larger, trying to make it more significant, which I can appreciate. But certainly, marketing that site is also the removal of the dilapidated structures that we just talked about.
Sure.
As well as the concrete piles. So I want to concentrate on the concrete piles in my discussion with you. Are you bringing additional material on site now, or is everything there kind of been there for some time and you're kind of working through getting rid of it?
Both.
Okay.
My company, I have two companies. One is a hardscape company and one is a general contracting company. In our hardscape company, we're continually mining concrete and removing concrete. So we have used it as a staging area. And again, it was a fortress. It's no longer a fortress. We have stopped that. A lot of that material was brought in prior to. Those concretes are there for their resource, but what we were doing was removing the pieces and sorting ones with large amounts of steel in them, because steel is a bad animal in the crushing business.
Mm-hmm.
So both entities are going on. However, we're not anymore. The material that's in there is both from around the perimeter. There are some of the walls, the storage walls of the materials. They are slabs within the space, and we have pulled those and moved west with them so that the pile has gotten bigger. The picture shows the pile knocked down, but so that the resources are not to be higher than 6 feet.
So are you crushing on site then? You crushing the concrete on site?
I intend to,
Okay.
yes.
And are you going to be doing that at your new facility at I-275?
Crushing concrete? No, we'll be staging concrete at our new site.
Okay, well, so then when you move to the new site and you still have this site, will you use this site to crush concrete, since you're not going to be doing it at your new site?
We will not do it at the new one. The old site, we intend to do it because of the multiple buildings. So the foundations will all be crushed.
Okay, so the material that you're gonna crush is not something that's coming in from other jobs. It's what's there on site currently. The existing buildings and the existing piles of concrete.
Some was brought in.
That is obvious. I don't know by who, but it's obvious it's not from this site.
And that's a part of our business, so that's,
Will that part of the business continue as you market the site?
no.
Okay, that's where I'm going.
No, that material is there. There's a certain amount of material there that we know, cubic yards, tonnage, and that material is planned to be used at the site.
For
Staging.
keeping mud off the thoroughfare, so on and so forth, which I can appreciate. And I asked that question at last meeting. Was it going to be used as part of the redevelopment? And it was not known.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing you to say is you're working on a timeline on demolishing some of the buildings, and maybe April, May of next year. You're not bringing additional concrete in, and you're anticipating that what is there will get crushed on site and reused as part of the redevelopment process somehow.
Now, add to that, Mr. Bachman, we did bring in soil because we have 4 foundation holes to fill.
It's fair.
So there was soil there, and that's been graded out.
Sure.
Looks like a yard.
That's
So-
fine. I understand that.
But that soil is a cap that has to be compacted.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that was brought in for that purpose.
Okay.
I think we have enough.
Do you anticipate the crushing of the concrete on site to that timeline to coincide with what you said earlier of April or May of 2024?
Yeah, I think that's all one process.
Okay.
So when we bring them down, everything is being processed.
Okay.
There's a couple machines
Okay.
you don't even need to hear about, but
That's fine.
needed for the process. They'll all be brought in for that to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thanks again. I apologize again, and so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think next up, it would be good to hear from our Colerain zoning department. So Stan, would you mind coming?
Ms. McMullen, I did invite Mr. Stan Schmale. He leads our code enforcement. And so he has met on site numerous times with Mr. Davis, and I asked him to come tonight to kind of give his personal perspective on what he has seen transpire over the time. So thank you.
And then for the record, your name and address, please.
Stan Small, Colerain Township Code Division, 4200 Springdale Road.
Thank you.
On the site plan, we went out, as Mr. Davis said, we met with him. Actually, I met with him twice. And corresponded in phone conversations what the desired end result would be. He has acted in good faith, in my opinion. It's just my opinion, is to get done prepping the site the way it is right now. Obviously, he has to go further with the property, so, but anything I've asked or he has communicated, he's been an open book. So I believe he made pretty good progress. There were, I believe, 6 total dumpsters. They're down to 1, I believe, Rick, right? And that's just all the debris out that he does take out.
Sir, if you're going to speak, you would either need to come back up to the
But
podium.
he has acted in good faith, is what I have asked him to do moving forward. And
In your estimation, is the April-May timeframe a reasonable timeframe to take those buildings down?
in the discussions that he has indicated to myself, I think April, May is doable. But he also wants to have the proper equipment in there to, get rid of the remnants of the buildings as well. So, I believe it is. I believe that's a pretty good time assessment.
Okay.
Given the weather, the winter months that are coming in. But again, he's acted in good faith. When I have dealt with him, I meet him out there early mornings, we discuss things, and I feel that what he says, April, May, I would go with.
Okay.
Any questions for? Okay, thank you. All right, so we will go down the list in the order that you signed in, and my apologies if I mispronounce any names. First up is Mary Gao. Can pass? Okay. Eusebio Gao? And for the record, your name and address, and if you want to lower the microphone so we can hear you better. Thank you.
My name is Eusebio Gao. I'm a retired physician, and I live on 3515 Banning Road. And I have lived on that area for 50 years. 3541 was my first house. I bought it in 1970, and I lived in that house for 10 years. Subsequently, I bought up my neighbor, who's got 3 acres. And I built my new house over there in 1980. I moved over. And I've been there since 1970. Now, I don't know if any one of you would like to live next to Mr. Davis' business. You're talking about crushing all this concrete. You know how much noise that produces? I don't think any one of you would like to live next to it. And I'm just down the road, right next door. See all this property, 3551, used to belong to my father-in-law. And like I said, 3541 was my old house. So I own an empty lot, 100 by 400, which is 1 acre, right next door to where he is. And he tried to buy me out about a year or so ago, telling me all the good things he was gonna do. Well, in the meantime, he was planning to do this, making this into a business zone, crossing rocks and all those things, making all kinds of noise. And I don't know whether he needs an environmental impact study to do this kind of business in this residential neighborhood. And you folks are talking like you're approving his plan. You don't think about the people that live next to it. And the picture he was showing, the one up there, you go look at it. All those crushed rocks are still there. The concrete are there. I hope you don't approve this change of zoning, because I live right next to it. And like I said, I've been there for 50 years. And I don't intend to move. I'm gonna live there till I die, so. Then the other things that you gotta consider, traffic right now on Banning Road is terrible. Cheviot Road is terrible. If you make that into a business, what is it gonna do to the traffic? And then the other thing, you gotta consider the sewer system on Banning Road. You know, if you do that, you might have to spend a lot of money fixing your sewer. You know, who's gonna pay for that? Is Mr. Davis gonna pay for that? Or you guys gonna pay for it? I mean, I object, to the application to change the zoning, so, but you folks are talking like you're gonna approve it. So,
Well, we're asking questions during our public hearing.
so,
Yeah.
so that's all I got to say, so.
Thank you. Irene Frey? No? I'm just gonna say Julie. So please come to the podium, and then you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Julie Gal-Kruzik. Have lived, now I live in Georgia. I flew in this morning from Georgia to come to this meeting. My parents were traveling at the last month's meeting and were unable to come. I live at 13130 Overlook Pass, Roswell, Georgia, 30075. I have resided at Banning Road since I was born in 1971. I lived at 3541 Banning Road until we moved down the street in 1981. Again, purchased property from our neighbors. So my grandfather owned the corner lot. We owned the house that Mr. Davis now owns and intends to raise. I listened to the radiator business behind us my whole childhood. We own the next 3 acres. Mark Howens rents from my parents, so there's an empty lot. There's Mark's house at 3523 and my parents at 3515. Again, I was asked to be here. I'm the heir apparent to this property, to my parents' property, with my brother, who lives in Alexandria, Virginia. Again, I'm terribly concerned that I would come in. As a side note, I'm also terribly upset because my parents were in Asia traveling for the last meeting. I left messages. I tried to get a hold of people in Colerain Township. I said, how can I zoom into the meeting? How can I see the agenda? How can I know what's going on? Nobody ever called me. And that's a big disappointment, which is part of why I'm here. And again, Mr. Schmel, you say Mr. Davis is an open book. He has acted in good faith. Have you been to this lot in the past several days? Have you seen this?
May I suggest you keep all conversations between yourself and the board?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I would like to give the board permission to show photos that I took this afternoon of the site, which if you go back to these are the cleared property lots. That is not, may I come up and show those to you? I took these at 4:25 today, 4:26.
So I just want to ask a little clarification from staff before. So the properties that we are discussing today are the 3541 and 3551 Banning Road. For the existing properties that are not on the rezoning, if her photographs are of those properties, is that something that we should be considering, or should we only be looking at photos for the 2 properties that are in question?
The case before you deals with just the 2 R6 properties, and those are the ones that it is our understanding that Mr. Davis has cleared the debris from and moved those to the B1 zone properties that is properly zoned for commercial property, commercial purposes.
And those properties, the commercial properties, that concrete is permitted to be there?
That is correct.
Okay, so that answers my question. So if your photographs are of the
I
2 properties?
I didn't walk the property. I don't have the property markers. I don't know where the lines end, but it didn't look like that today.
So just for context, the image on the left, if it'll pull back up, sorry. Great timing. The image on the left, that would be the residential zoning, and the image on the right, that would be the business zoning.
So question, did you take the pictures or were those submitted by someone else? You took the pictures. And do you remember about what date those were taken?
It was one day last week.
Okay. So they're somewhat current.
Please?
They're very current then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The before pictures were taken on, yes, that was on October 30th, and then the after pictures were taken less than 2 weeks later.
Okay. Ma'am, I don't need to see your pictures. I was out there today. I didn't walk the site, but I drove the site, so I feel like I've seen enough with my own eyes that I'm not sure that I need your pictures.
Thank you.
That's you know, my 2 cents. I don't know about my fellow commissioners, but that's where I'm at.
Right, and what becomes hard with looking at pictures on a phone is everything that's presented to us has to become part of the public record. So it's hard to accept your phone and share your phone with it.
Happy to forward them to everyone if we're able to broadcast them. And again, I have my reservations whether or not this is again, I do not know Mr. Davis. I know what I've seen over the years, and all I've seen over the years are the fences come down, concrete everywhere, rocks everywhere, trucks everywhere, junk everywhere. I was in my bed when the Arsco fire exploded. I'm not sure if you owned that, purchased that. It knocked me out of bed. I believe I was told that was in 2004 tonight. It's a mess. It's disgusting. This is my childhood backyard, and now it's just covered in garbage. And my parents, I've tried to move them to a condo. I've tried to move them to Georgia. They don't want to move. They're not going to move. They own their property, 3 acres, including where Mark Cowens lives, and it's disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. And that, you know, my husband says we should sell all this, we should get out of here, we should my parents are not going to do that. But in good faith, I can't see with the eyesore that's there that this is gonna be cleaned up and nice and fine and livable or sellable. And again, none of us want retail. I believe last meeting y'all said that some of you had tried to make turns out of there. It's terrible traffic. It's not livable, and this is not what I want to deal with at the end of my life. I've got a hot mess in my backyard, and I hope you would all consider that. Come over, hang out, check it out, see what goes on. But I'm very concerned.
Right, and Mr. Becker, I'm going to instruct her to email her pictures to you, and then we'll hear from Mr. Cowens, and if you wouldn't mind, then we can just bring her back up to the podium. I want her to walk away knowing that we have seen all of her evidence. So his email address is jbecker, BECKER, @colerain.org. So if you could email him, they will become part of the public record as well.
Thank you. jbecker@colerain.org. All right, thank you.
And then we'll bring you back up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Cowens, you can come. You ready for me? Okay, so again, you'll need to state your name and address for the record.
Mark Cowens, 3523 Banning Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45239.
Okay. You can speak.
Okay. What they're talking about or you are being told is not the truth at all. Rick even talked about they keep bringing more stuff in and concrete there. The pictures they're showing is not what it looks like. They were taken a week ago, and he's still bringing in more concrete and dirt. So even though the other guy took the pictures, that's not what they look like. And he even told you he's been bringing in more concrete. As for like the traffic, which we talked about the last time, being a nurse for 30 years, when I can see an ambulance come down and can't even get through because the traffic is so bad at Banning, Blue Rock, and Cheviot. I know it's a bottleneck, it all pours in there. But if it was your life when seconds matter, don't you wish you could get through there? There's only 2 lanes. And it's not, you're not thinking of, they're not thinking of everybody else. I mean, they would really need to widen the road pretty much. But the traffic is so bad as it is, sometimes it takes me at least 5 minutes just to pull out of my driveway. And the trash, like I just said, there's more and more stuff there, and there's just so much trash already that comes down Banning Road, especially from United Dairy Farmers. I've even talked with people at United Dairy Farmers and kind of discussed what they want to put in, another strip mall there. And they have so many accidents. Just today, there was an accident right there and people can't even get through. As for the buildings and stuff they want to remove, that's already residential property. It should stay as residential. There's residential from Galbraith Road all the way up to Pippin, all the way to where I live on Banning, and it continues all the way to North Bend Road. The traffic there is so bad all the time. You can be stuck there for who knows how long. And like I said, he keeps bringing more stuff there. And he said he had one dumpster there. There's a lot more than that. There was 3 and 4 within the last week when the other person took the pictures. Obviously, he hasn't been back. And I'm sure when you guys drive by, you've seen all the concrete. Even if he moved the concrete over to another side or whatever, they're bringing more concrete going right there to that picture. And third, he told you that. You gave him 30 days to clean it up. Well, 30 days passed, and it's not cleaned up. So I just hope you guys will realize, as for the traffic problem, if you're willing to widen that road, which I don't think you want to do, the reason he is not, the buildings that were there, the reason that people had to move out, I got to take a drink of water, is because he refused to fix the water lines going into the buildings. And that's why he let them go empty. The other guy that had the lawnmower shop on the corner there, he said they moved out. No. He stopped the guy's lease and told him he had 2 or 3 months to move out because they were not going to renew the lease. And I know there's so many people in that area that took their mowers there. So it's not like the guy just moved out. He didn't. He wanted to stay there. He still has another 15 or 20 years to work. And all of a sudden, he has no place to work from. And everybody from this area took their mowers there. I just hope you realize what's being said and what's being done are completely different. And other people I've talked that live on the street I live on Banning, cannot believe you would even think about putting retail up there. There's no way to pull in and out. And it just stay residential. Don't put a commercial. That's the worst thing you could do. And like I said, the rest of Banning and Blue Rock and Chivy and all that, it's all residential. Keep it that way. The traffic's so bad as it is, you cannot even get in and out of your own driveway. And so the other thing I would love you to do, if you somehow want to commit to this, I want somebody to sit there and monitor the traffic to see how much traffic there really is there. And once they realize there's so much traffic, you can't get through, especially an ambulance or a fire truck can't get through because there's nowhere to get around. So I hope you disagree on all this. Crushing all this concrete, it's been going on for a long time. And like he was saying, there's only one dumpster there. You gotta drive up there right now. You'll see there's more. And you'll see still piles and piles of concrete, which I know you live in this area, you've gone by there, you see what it is. You gave him 30 days, he didn't do it. And now he's bringing in more concrete and dirt. So what he said he was gonna do or they were gonna do, he didn't honor. So why is he gonna all of a sudden honor all this stuff when you already gave him time? If it was me and my property and I didn't move it, I'd be looking at all kinds of fines and everything else because I did not do what you guys told me to do. I had 30 days and you're talking about, it just looks terrible. And You know, and the traffic, you cannot pull in and out. And I think you should just stop all of this and it should just stay residential if that's what he wants to do. And I'm sure he could sell the lots and he could put houses up there and probably make more money than he could than putting commercial property there, which is just gonna make the whole area worse because it just brings people in and it's not always a good thing and kids will hang out behind it and this and that. We already have to run people off the property once in a great while. It's not all the time, but they cut through there, through his property and come in the backyards there. So I just hope he realizes this is just really not a good idea to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are these her pictures? Okay. Julie, did you want to come back up? If you just want to walk us through them.
So this is standing with Palace of India, Old Chili Company to my back, facing in. The red brick on the far left is the garage of 3541, where I grew up. Again, I don't know where all the boundary lines are, but this is the view coming in, coming from the airport, coming back to my house today. Again, this is looking straight in. I don't know what that chimney fireplace business is. More of the same. The next one is a little bit more. Okay, so that's a panorama. You can see Blue Rock Cheviot on the left, sweeping all the way across, you know, the house on the corner. The red brick, that's right next to the old lawnmower station. Continuing across, the red brick garage, you know, right in the middle, green roof, that's 3541. The white house, the white top, that continues over. So again, this is the view. I'm not sure about landscaping and buffering, but again, in my time, you know, I walk my dogs in our field. I haven't even been over there, but my guess is there's gravel crumbling over the fence that used to be there and encroaching into our property if I had to really go look at it. And wasn't even over there yet today because I haven't been here that long.
You can go to the next. Is there another picture or is that it? Okay.
Did you only send me 4?
I thought I had sent you more. Maybe they were too big.
Oh, they're coming in now.
Okay. You know, and again, my concern is, there was one quote. It's quite a challenge to get Duke and some of these companies coordinated to get the utilities moved. If you're a builder and this is your job and you really want to do this, again, I think you could figure out a way to do it within the 30 days allotted or sooner than April of next year. Again, I just have my concerns because it's been an eyesore for years and I'm shocked that it's even gotten to this point. And so again, I wish you would all consider living next to it. Maybe you all want to buy the properties. Thank you.
No, we're waiting to see if there's another picture to come. And you can just flick through them, please.
That's awesome.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cowens, was it anything that you haven't said already? Is it something that's going to add value to the conversation? Okay, you can come.
And as I've known Dr. Gal probably 25 years. I worked at their office for approximately 12 years. And with me moving into there, in the house I'm in, I plan on living there the rest of my life. Hopefully it's long. So talk to God about that one. But, you know, I don't plan on moving or going anywhere. And just with this and the commercial business and all that, it's just going to really take away from everything up there. So I just want, you know, however long I'm going to live, I will be there. And I just want you to realize that I plan on living there the rest of my life.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, while we're still in public hearing, any additional questions for the applicants? 1 second, please.
I have one for staff.
Okay, please go.
Question for staff, and that is, can you remind us what the screening and buffering requirements are for B1, so the business use next to the R6, next to the residential?
I believe it's 30 feet, but give me just 30 seconds to confirm. I'm sorry, that'd be 25 feet.
Okay, so, and is there a vertical screen that's required also?
Nothing regarding vertical screen.
So there's a horizontal distance of 25 feet, is that correct? And within that 25 feet, can they park, or is that, in essence, open space?
That would be in essence open space.
Okay. So at the end of the day, without any deal between them and the property owner, they being the developer or whoever redevelops the property, would be required for 25-foot horizontal, in essence, open space.
Yes. And then I just wanted to add, just to clarify, I missed that part. It would be a 6-foot high fence or berm would be required for the
There is a vertical screen also. And that vertical screen goes the entire distance, or the entire length is a better term, between the non-compatible zoning districts, correct? So the whole area between the B1 that's developed and the R6.
I wouldn't necessarily say vertically that would be the whole area. I would say that it just at one point, if there is a 6-foot high fence or berm, the zoning resolution does not definitively say that it would need to go the whole distance as well.
Okay. Okay.
But ultimately, if this was approved and a PDP came before us, that could become a condition
Yes.
from the commission.
Yes.
But as I understand it, if this is not approved, that still applies right now. In other words, between that B1 and that residential district, it should be in place right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so at the end of the day, what I think I heard is 25 foot and 6 foot vertical. And the exact distance on vertical would be one for, depending on what the site plan actually came in and modifications as appropriate or whatever the case may be. Okay. And they're working on potentially a private deal that we're not a party to, you're all not a party to, but there could be more, and that's up to them. But right now, from a minimum zoning standpoint, that's what we have. Okay. I just wanted to put that on the record so that we were all aware that there is a requirement once it's developed for that separation between the incompatible land uses. So that's all I had, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
You're good. Any other questions for
Questions, Tom?
staff or the developer? Okay, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Jonathan Woker again. I appreciate the commission's time tonight and allowing us to speak again. We would, if a redevelopment happens, we would have to have a 25-foot buffer, and we would have to have that fence the full length of the property that's adjacent to the R6, the residential, with the only exception being for site triangles, site visibility as you near the street. And there would be, evergreen plantings required as well, and that would be our intent. I'm a planner, right? So what I do is I write codes and plans, and I represent developers, and and this is a unique situation that you find yourself in, and that is that, you know, we're here with a property that's not in great shape, right? That obviously has some concerns that the township has raised, and that our neighbors have said that it's a mess, that it's a problem, and I'm here presenting to you that I think the solution to that situation is to rezone this property so that it can be redeveloped. And my client, Mr. Davis, is moving his business, does not intend to be there, wants to redevelop, wants to fix this situation, right? And you're in the situation to try and figure out, is that fair? You know, is that what we should do? I think that the zone change is the appropriate request, that the R6 in this location for these two properties, and given the conditions of the corridor, the amount of traffic, the business environment already there, that this zone change request is appropriate, and that by granting the zone change, it allows us and Mr. Davis to move forward in a way that takes all this away, right? We talked about demolition between, you know, in April and May. Our hope would be between now and April, we are also submitting development plans so that the township is reviewing that. We're working with the county on traffic engineering. We're addressing sanitary sewer designs, that we're coming in here with a development plan. And it's not just, the plan isn't just to scrape this and end up with something less. What we want to do is have a development parcel that can be fixed. And so it's a real, you know, it's a tough situation because, like I said, you have conditions that are less than desirable now, but I do think that the zone change is what gives the opportunity to have the fix, so to speak. There's not concrete crushing happening now. You know, the demolition part would happen regardless if it's redeveloped, right? That would be a short-term fix. It would be done, and then it would be over at some point. And we have met with the township staff, and they've testified that Mr. Davis is working with them and in good faith, and has done what they believe is what they asked. So, you know, we have some diverging testimony there, but we feel that we've worked in good faith with the township, and I also feel that you still have that stick in your hand to keep us doing that, right? So if you don't feel like we're doing that in December or January, February, that, you know, Mr. Smale has Mr. Davis's number and knows how to continue to enforce issues that come up. So that's my speech. I think that, you know, this is an appropriate zoning. I would ask you that, you know, you make a decision to recommend approval tonight so that we can, you know, come to some movement forward. And, you know, we appreciate your time and consideration on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we need a motion to close our public hearing.
So
please.
moved.
And a second. Thank you. Mr. Becker, please.
Mr. Bachman,
Yes.
Mr. Gehring,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. McMullen.
Yes. And at this time, commissioners, any last questions before we entertain a motion?
Just one last comment, and this is again for the staff. So could you guys speak to, I know we've got a lot of people in the audience who probably, it's their first time here or not sure of the process. Could you speak to what happens with regard to a site plan? So what happens, should the zoning go through or should it not go through? Somehow somebody's going to redevelop this property. Could you kind of speak about that process? There's a site plan that comes in, it gets approved by us. I believe there's traffic impact or traffic analysis. Can you guys speak to that process so that folks understand kind of what the steps are?
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit more too, because tonight you will vote on a recommendation, and that recommendation will go to the Board of Trustees, who has the ultimate authority to change the zoning map according to the amendment that's before them. And so that will happen in time. Not sure exactly if that'll be the December meeting or the January. The December is probably a little bit close, but it's possible. Nonetheless, they would have the final decision on whether those two parcels get the zoning change. Subsequent to that, then the owner of the property has the right then, after a 30-day referendum period, after the vote of the trustees, that you can collect a certain number of signatures that the state has allocated. I believe they just changed that law, and I think it's 15% of those that voted in the last gubernatorial election. I think it went from 8 to 15. And then that would go, that zoning change, if they were able to collect those valid signatures, that would go to the ballot for voters of Colerain to decide. If it goes through, then the zoning change does not take place. If it fails, then the zoning change remains. Again, that's on the presumption that the Board of Trustees approves. With the zoning change, then the owner of the property then begins the process of, as they have stated, consolidation into one lot. They would start with creating their own plans of how they would market it and to whom and for what purposes. If they sign a contract with somebody that says we would like to put a business here that sells widgets, then they would begin working with the township to submit all their plans, a site plan that says here's the boundary of the property, here's where our building's going to be, here's a list of all of our setbacks and how far we'll be from each neighboring property, all of those things. So we will approve the zoning and where that building goes on that parcel, and then they'll go to the county. So Hamilton County Building Department would then receive their plans and issue building permits. They would also have to get approvals from Metropolitan Sewer District on the sewers. They would have to go through the city of Cincinnati with Greater Cincinnati Water Works. They would have to have an approval from county engineer on what the traffic plan's going to be. The engineer may require a study. I don't know about that requirement from their perspective, but it may be that the proposal needs traffic alteration, and they have to add a deceleration lane to be able to pull into the property. Who knows? There could be any number of suggestions that would mitigate the traffic issues that could be proposed or caused by this new business. So there are a lot of opportunities to improve what they might propose, but I think that everybody's going to be working to find the best proposal that creates the fewest problems or eliminates them and works with the neighborhood and the location that's there. I don't know if that answers picture-wise.
It does.
Okay.
Oh, it does, thank you. And, excuse me, I have the floor, excuse me. I did want to make the point, though, since this is Zone B1, the existing property is Zone B1, let's stay with that, because that's a given. That would not come back before the commission. That is correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's already Zone B1.
That is correct.
So all they're doing is adding these two parcels, B1, and then their goal, as they stated, would be to consolidate all of those B1 parcels into one B1 parcel.
It becomes an internal, the development becomes an internal process approved only by the staff. There's no public input.
That is correct. That consolidation goes to the county as well. So we will be done, once it gets through the trustees for the zoning change. And then once they start developing their construction and development plans, then we would look at zoning laws,
Sure.
what you propose, what you want to build there, and if that complies.
Yeah, so it's all about the compliance of the existing zoning now, or potentially. My point is, it's not coming back to this commission for review.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm done. That gentleman, if you want to hear him, that's fine.
We are now out of public hearing. To make it come back to the zoning commission? No, your next opportunity to speak will be before the Colerain Township trustees when it makes it to them. So our recommendation will go to them either as a recommendation to approve or a recommendation to deny, but we haven't made it that far yet. So commissioners, any last questions?
I have one that I'd like to pose to the other commissioners. My concern is the look of the property now and the look of the property in the future. If in fact we grant this approval, then like you say, it won't come back before us. And if April, May comes and goes, the property still looks like the devil, like it does now. So I echo what I said last meeting, and that was, why consider a modification to a zoning requirement to a candidate that is not showing that they comply with existing zoning regulations now? And as we talked today, there's a 25-foot setback on the property today because it's a B1 to R6. Yeah, he owns the R6, but it doesn't make any difference. Let's see if in April, May, he's complied with that requirement. Let's see if the property's cleaned up, if the buildings are gone. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is, why don't we deny this application with the caveat that we will reconsider in May or before if what the developer says he's going to do is in fact accomplished and he meets our zoning requirements at that time.
So, Mr. Miller, in the chance that it were to get denied and it goes to the trustees could obviously overrule us. If they were to uphold a denial, what happens at that point? They would reapply?
The applicant is notified that their zoning change is denied, and they would then begin a new process. What needs to be done in order to bring these two parcels into compliance if they're not, or not those two, but the B1s, if they're not in compliance. I think they would begin a process of working with the township and code enforcement and the zoning department to determine what the rules are. I guess that certainly would be the application of our current zoning resolution, and so that could happen. Then they could bring back a new application for rezoning and start this over again.
As I understand the process as well, we talked about the 25-foot setback. If we either approve or deny this, then tomorrow we could be out there citing them for non-compliance of the 25-foot setback between the B1 and the R6.
We could give them notice that they are not meeting that. I would presume Mr. Davis would be able to meet that fairly quickly, but that certainly would be an option for him.
Okay.
And I appreciate the thoughts of he's not in compliance and he's asking for something from us. I guess I brought it up last meeting, the ghostly nature. Ghostly is a great term, thank you. The ghostly nature of the property and the concrete, and some work has been done. I don't know that it's as far as we all would hoped, but he is working with the staff, and the staff, as the testimony, that they're working through it together, and the staff is comfortable that he thinks that the timeline of April or May is appropriate. Now, it really becomes the developer and the property owner's responsibility, but he didn't feel that that was outlandish in terms of a timeline. I also agree, I have to agree that I think the rezoning of this property does make it more marketable. It's certainly a larger piece. It squares it off. And as I mentioned at our last meeting, I think frankly, I think it's going to help the circulation of the site. It's not going to reduce traffic. I would be lying to you if I said a rezoning from residential to commercial is going to reduce traffic. It's not. But what I think it will do, I think it's going to help the circulation of the site. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at, and if Justin, could you put the site plan up, please, for us? Yes. If you look at the UDF that's north of the site, and you look at that driveway approach, how close that is to Cheviot, that is a problem. We've all shopped there. We all have tried to take the left turn out of there or the right turn out of there, and it's a problem. Frankly, without this zone change, the existing approach, or the future approach, is probably going to be directly adjacent or directly across from that UDF. I think it's going to be a real problem. The rezoning, in my opinion, gives us the ability, or gives the developer the opportunity, to move that further to the east, which really, I think, helps the circulation of the site. And I think that really is one of the problems that we heard in the testimony of traffic and the issues with regard to safety vehicles coming in and out is the circulation on this particular site, the accidents that occur on the weed, the accidents that occur on the left turns, right turns from those driveway approaches so close to Cheviot Road. I think it helps it with regard to the squaring off. So I am of the opinion that, yes, there's some issues with the existing uses. We've heard testimony that it's going to be cleaned up. We've heard testimony that the applicant is moving to a different site. I guess I'm of the opinion I'm going to trust that he indeed is going to market this site, and he certainly can't market this site for reuse with it looking like it does. He's kidding himself if he tries to, so I feel that he's going to do that's in his best interest from a business standpoint to go ahead and modify these, remove these buildings, get this concrete resolved, and make the site a lot better, in my opinion.
And I'm going to state that I agree with you with the assumption that there is somebody out there that wants to buy this property as a square. If nobody wants to acquire this property, then in fact, as it being all a B1, he can continue the property, using the property as he does now to store equipment, because he's got this asset that he cannot sell. And I believe that it makes more sense to say, okay, if you're going to use it, at least clean it up first. So let's delay the approval until you show us you clean it up. And then once you clean it up, then we'll consider the approval. And that's all I've got to say.
Sure, I understand.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, you have anything to add? Mr. Westfall?
What?
Any additional comments or
No,
questions?
you guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, I think the most expedient sort of, if the problem primarily is the site as it currently stands, I think the applicant made a good case that the most expedient means of correcting it is to approve, make it B1, let them sell it. I think if we deny, because they're currently non-compliant, I understand that point of view, but I do think it would just delay the process, and it would just make the site remain in its current state longer, which I think is not ideal.
All right, so does anyone want to entertain a motion?
Ms. McMullen, if you might let me, I want to get a clarifying question answered with Mr. Woker or Mr. Davis. And again, time-wise. And again, let's just play this out. You get approved, you get recommended tonight, goes to the Board of Trustees, they approve the rezoning. So, Mr. Davis, I guess you would be the one to answer this. As far as timing goes, you're going to start the process of utility disconnections, get all of that done on the buildings that are there on an ASAP basis, whatever that means, right? And then...
And Mr. Miller, would you mind, Mr. Davis, can you come back up to the podium, please? Okay. And can you answer his question again so it's on record?
So
Rick Davis.
Okay, so.
Can you answer
on
this
a-
question again on,
You're gonna work through this process on an ASAP basis, whatever that means, right?
We're
you're gonna-
hoping it to be ongoing immediately.
Yes, and, okay, so then you're gonna do the utility disconnects, you'll do your demo permits, you'll begin taking these buildings down.
Yes.
At that point, the whole site's gonna be rubble. You're gonna rent your pulverizer, and you're gonna start that separation of everything, all of the contents of the site. You'll pulverize what you need to, haul off what you need to, relocate what you want. So when we talk about April or May, that's the, I guess you're saying that's the furthest outside boundary of when all of this might be done? Is that what you're saying? Or everything is just gonna be ongoing until it's done? And when do you think that? It takes that long? That's for,
Contracts need to be signed. And in order to get contracts signed, the B1 has to be cleaned up.
and contracts for sale?
For the future, yeah,
Okay.
the sale. Hmm. And so that's inevitable. The, everything we heard, bear in mind that all those buildings that you see there were separate businesses. So as far as those businesses having B1 boundaries, those things have been grandfathered there for years, as the daughter has explained, that she looked at it all her life back to Arsco Radiator. It's been a mess for years. We cleaned it up. We put a stockade fence and pine trees down. It was beautiful. You said so yourself. I got the beautification award. So all those businesses, they stood by themselves. They have to come down. And that's what we're proposing, to do it in a very, very timely fashion. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
all right, gentlemen?
I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning request for KZA 2023-17. That is an amendment request from R6 residential to B1 commercial for addresses 3541 and 3551 Banning Road.
Second that.
Mr. Becker, we have a motion to approve in front of us.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
No.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. So the motion carries 4-1. Thank you. All right, so we do have a third public hearing on tonight's agenda.
I ate it somewhere. No big deal. Yeah. Down in the abyss. Lost everybody here. I don't want.
So next up, we have a public hearing for zoning case ZA 2023-18, a minor amendment to and final development plan, case ZA 4-89. And Mr. Becker.
Thank you for the introduction, Ms. McMullen. Just to reiterate real quick again, this is case ZA 2023-18. This will particularly be a minor amendment to case ZA 4-89. This will be taking place at 6401 Colerain Avenue. Our applicant today is Ken Schurman. Property owner being 6401 Colerain LLC, and that takes place in a PDB. That is our Business Plan Development District. Starting us off with our zoning map. Once again, we are at the very bottom right-hand corner there. Zoning map zoomed in. Here you can see the separation between the PDB, that is also an R6 and a B3. And then intertwined in there, not bordering it though, is a PDR and an R7. Oh, and as well as a B2 at the bottom. Here's our physical map. More zoomed in. zoning once again. You can see the R6 and the B3 that border it. Property map. And lastly, our topo map. So Mr. Schuerman, is here today seeking a minor amendment to a final development plan to incorporate outdoor storage of auction items. That would be particularly outdoor furniture, planters, lumber, lawn care supplies, masonry supplies, pavers, and edging supplies. For a little bit of case history, dating back all the way to 1989, the subject property was rezoned EE. That was our planned retail business zoning at the time. And prior to the approved zoning amendment, the existing parcels were a combination of B2, that was residence, and F, light industrial. And then in 2007, that was with the comprehensive zoning amendment. Those districts were then labeled from EE to PDB. That is our planned development business district. In 2018, a previous applicant applied for and received an administrative amendment around July 24th, 2018, and this was for the restriping of parking and directional signs for online shopping. Last year in 2022, the same property was before the Zoning Commission and received a recommendation of approval for a major amendment that was particularly for a change of use from retail commercial to warehousing, and then went on to receive approval from the Board of Trustees for warehousing as the primary use. But the applicant in that case did not complete the purchase process, and the property was then again offered for sale. Which takes us to this year. The same property was before the Zoning Commission and received approval for a minor amendment for the addition of a customer pickup of warehouse items and for the entire building to be repainted, as well as interior and exterior alterations to be performed, and lastly, a new signage scheme to be implemented. And lastly, the applicant is now, today, seeking a minor amendment to the original FDP, ZA 4-89, and that would be to incorporate outdoor storage and pickup areas for outdoor products that are purchased by online customers. The major amendment, that would be ZA 2022-04 specifically, addressed and approved the change of use to allow for warehousing, as I mentioned. Here's Mr. Schuerman's application. The site plan. Within the site plan, you can see the proposed fences and gates that separate the front from the back, as well as the 0.9 acre proposed storage site that would be in the parking lot. Once again, this is the fencing sheet. This is in regards to the chain link fencing that would be incorporated with slats. Also to mention that that is 98% approximate privacy is what is intended to be. And Mr. Schuerman highlighted a few renderings of what it would look like, also in different colors. You can see the two different sites on the left-hand side of the parking lot. And it's also good to note that there is a bit of separation as shown on the first site plan that will be in between those two sites. As far as zoning resolution and the relevant information for this case, looking at 9.3, that is our planned development district section, particularly 9.3.1, our purpose section, 9.3.6, design standards, and 9.3.7, common open space. And then again, we'll be looking at 4.3.4, that'll be our review criteria, 4.5.3, the approval criteria, 12.10.4, that would be the general standards for outdoor display, sales, and storage, 12.10.6, those are the standards specifically for outdoor storage areas, and 13.3.2, that would be the required number of parking spaces, and 14.5.2, that would be our lot buffers. So, Ms. McMullen, if you want, go ahead and read this and tell me when to continue. I will pick back up on section 12. That will get more specific to this case.
So let me defer to my fellow commissioners. Was there anyone that did not read this prior to coming today?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we could just continue through.
Go to section 12.
Yep.
Okay. So starting us off at section 12, once again, 12.10.4, that is the general standards for outdoor display, sales, and storage. I'll run through this very quickly. Point A, all outdoor sales, display, and storage areas shall require a zoning certificate. B, outdoor sales, display, and storage areas shall not be located in any required setback, parking and circulation area, right-of-way, or required landscape or buffer area. C, such sales, display, and storage areas shall be prohibited if they create any safety hazard for pedestrians. A minimum pathway is in areas for outdoor displays, sales, and storage shall be provided to allow for the flow of pedestrian traffic outside of that designated vehicular traffic drives. Such pathway shall have a minimum clearance width of 5 feet, or the width required to meet the minimum standards of the ADA, Hamilton County Building Department, whichever is greater. D, where screening or security fencing is provided or required, decorative cast iron, aluminum, wood material, or materials used in the principal building shall be used for the fencing. Other materials may be permitted with the administrative approval of the zoning commission. Point E, chain link fencing, barbed wire fencing, and other wire mesh fencing shall be permitted only where the fencing is not visible from any public right-of-way. And F, all outdoor sales, display, and storage areas shall be maintained free of garbage and other debris. Outdoor sales, display, and storage areas shall be limited to 5% of the gross floor area of the principal structure with a maximum of 2,500 square feet. As for 12.10.6, this is the standard specifically for outdoor storage areas. A, outdoor storage shall be prohibited on vacant lots. B, only those goods and materials associated with the existing on-site use may be stored or sold in outdoor storage areas. C, outdoor storage may be permitted provided that the storage areas are located in the side or rear yards. D, storage of any goods or materials shall not exceed 6 feet in height. And E, all outdoor storage areas shall be screened from view of the public right-of-way by a 6-foot fence in conformance with subsection 12.10.4, as mentioned before, and screening shall not be required if the outdoor storage area is located out of view from any public right-of-way. As for 13.3.2, the required number of spaces, this will be for warehousing. We require 1 space for every 2,000 square feet. And lastly, for lot buffers, when a PDB abuts an R1 through 6, we require 30 feet, but when it abuts a B3, no buffer is required. But just wanted to emphasize that between that site and any R6 site, that a 30-foot buffer is required. So based on the proposed site plan, the applicant's submittal letter, staff's interpretation of the zoning resolution, review criteria, and approval criteria, we determined that the proposed amendment to FDP case ZA 4-89 does significant justice in adhering to the following standards, beginning with 12.10.4C, and I'll again run through this really quick. Such sales, display, and storage areas shall be prohibited if they create any safety hazard for pedestrians. A minimum pathway in areas used for outdoor displays, sales, and storage shall be provided, and that would have a minimum width of 5 feet, or to meet the minimum standards of the ADA, whichever is greater. And our response is that because the applicant intends to incorporate on-site pickup particularly, that a minimum pathway will be required to allow for the flow of pedestrian traffic, and it has been, after conversations with the applicant, their intent to incorporate that. And as for 9.3.1B, C, and D, as well as 9.3.7A, run through that really quickly again. Provide for and locate suitable recreational facilities, open space, and other common facilities while preserving the existing landscape to the greatest extent possible. Encourage sound planning principles in the arrangement of buildings, the preservation of open space, the utilization of topography and other site features, obtain creative and coordinated designs in harmony and surrounding uses, and allow procedures supplemental to those applicable in other use districts to establish under which development plans particularly designed to meet the objectives of this section. There shall be reserved within the tract to be developed as a PD a minimum percentage of land area of the entire tract for use as a common open space, and the zoning commission and board of trustees may require additional common open space as warranted by the individual development plan to meet the objectives of this section. The minimum percentage of land shall be illustrated in table 9-2. I'll get to, we had that before, be the 15%. And in response to that, the applicant has made great effort to provide for and locate suitable recreational facilities, open space, and other common facilities while preserving the existing landscape to the greatest extent possible. The applicant has made great effort to encourage sound planning principles in the arrangement of buildings, preservation of open space, and the utilization of topography and other site features. The applicant has made great effort to obtain creative and coordinated designs in harmony with surrounding uses and allow procedures supplemental to those applicable in other use districts to establish under which development plans particularly designed to meet the objectives of this section, and the applicant will not be altering that 15% common open space requirement for all planned developments. In terms of what would be required for variances, that we begin with 12.10.4B. Outdoor sales display and storage areas shall not be located in the required setback, parking and circulation area, right-of-way, or required landscape or buffer area. And in responding to both parking and buffer, beginning with parking for warehouse uses, 1 parking space is required for every 2,000 square feet of the principal building. The principal building at 6401 Colerain Avenue has a square footage of just under 59,000 square feet, therefore making the required number of parking spaces to be 30. Based on Mr. Schuerman's plans for incorporating outdoor storage and pickup within the already established 372 parking spaces, a variance to allow for outdoor storage and pickup, particularly in the parking lot, would not substantially hinder the parking requirements or congestion on site. And in responding to the buffer requirement, when a PDB abuts a B3, no buffer is required between the two sites. However, when a PDB abuts a R6, a 30-foot buffer shall be required. The current buffer between portions of the storage and pickup area and the R6 district is approximately 30 feet. However, there are few areas that fall below 30 feet and fall closer to 20 feet. In responding to 12.10.4E, chain link fencing, barbed wire fencing, and other wire mesh fencing shall be permitted only where the fencing is not visible from any public right-of-way. In this case, the fencing is visible from the public right-of-way. But as I mentioned, the applicant intends to incorporate that slat model, which will work to serve approximately 98% privacy. Addressing, and as mentioned, that will address both concerns regarding privacy and aesthetics as well. For 12.10.4F, all outdoor sales, display, and storage areas shall be maintained free of garbage and other debris. Outdoor displays, sales, and storage areas shall be limited to 5% of the gross floor area of the principal structure with a maximum of 2,500 square feet. It is the applicant's intent that the proposed outdoor storage area is to be used only for storage and on-site pickup, but the applicant is requesting approximately 39,000 square feet, which would come to roughly 67% of the gross floor area of the principal structure. As for 12.10.6C, outdoor storage may be permitted provided that these storage areas are located in the side or rear yard. In this case, it would be in the front yard, but I did want to include that there is an approximate 150-foot setback from where it is proposed to the public right-of-way. As for 12.10.6E, this is the last point, all outdoor storage areas shall be screened from view of the public right-of-way by a 6-foot fence in conformance with subsection 12.10.4. Screening shall not be required if the outdoor storage area is located out of view from any public right-of-way. As mentioned, it is in view of public right-of-way. And also, as mentioned, the applicant is proposing an 8 feet tall fence as opposed to 6 feet, and this is particularly for privacy concerns. As for our recommendation, the staff recommendation would be for denial of case ZA 2023-18, and this is particularly for points 12.10.4F, and 12.10.6C. That'd be the area and the location requirements. And once again, to reiterate, as for the area requirements, our zoning resolution only allows for a maximum of 2,500 square feet. In this case, the applicant is asking for 39,000, and likewise, that would be 5% of the gross floor area. That is the maximum that we would allow for as well. And in this case, that would be 67%. And then in addressing the location requirements, our zoning resolution also prohibits outdoor storage areas in the front yard of sites. While the applicant does have a 150-foot setback to the public right-of-way, it is still indeed in the front yard. That will conclude our staff report.
Thank you. So at this time, we do need to open the public hearing. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. A roll call?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring? Yes. Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. And we did not have anyone sign in. Is there anyone in the audience who? Okay, you'll need to stand up and be sworn in, please.
You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. And if you would like to step forward, that would be great. And I know you know the routine by now, so your name and address, please.
Ken Sherman, 3450 Vista Avenue, Cincinnati, 45208.
All right, you can proceed, please.
So I came here a month ago for the informal concept review, and we discussed different options about what our desires were for the site, and we were seemingly all on the same page. So for tonight, we clarified things and then came back with a few requests. So if you could go to the, okay, you're already there. So that is the proposed location of the fencing and gates at the top, the north. We would like to install a 40-foot fence and a 20-foot gate with these slats. That's primarily for security and just preventing rear access in the evening. And then at the south edge of the building, a 20-foot gate with 8 foot high with the slats. And then as we talked about a month ago, a couple areas of outside storage. The larger area is it's 8 foot high with the slats, and then the triangle area to the south is a possible future additional outside storage area. We're not here to we don't need the future area today, but that's what that is. And then if you go to the aerial, so that's we used a drone to take that about 2 months ago after we redid the parking lot. And then we inserted the fencing and where that would be. So you can see to the right there back by the building, that's where the fence and the gate would go. Can't really see to the left of the building, the other, you can see it now in blue. To the left of the building there, the other gate. And then I don't particularly like this color, but we're showing some color options. And then the larger outdoor storage area is delineated there. That's probably our preferred, the black. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, and no one else in the audience wishes to speak, correct? All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Weather's not a problem with this outdoor storage. You've got a lot of storage there, which means a lot of items getting weathered. That's not an issue.
No, it's all outdoor related materials that'll be stored out there, just stuff that can handle, kind of like what a Lowe's or somebody like that would put outside.
Any other questions?
So you heard the denial recommendation. Hearing that, is there any changes that you would feel appropriate that you'd like to make right now in terms of the size, in terms of the height of the fence or anything of that nature?
So I wasn't prepared for that because when I was here a month ago, we all said everything looks good. The staff never gave me any feedback to the contrary. So the only time I heard from them was a few days ago. So that's pretty disappointing. We have a major interior renovation about to start. This is a long-term lead item. Our general contractor wanted to order it. I told him to hold off. So it's a bit of a problem, actually. It's paramount to our tenants' business.
which we didn't really know when we bought the building, but it's just become a more integral part of his business model. He's basically taking auction items that he used to put inside and moving them outside. Gives him more opportunity for sales and gets kind of the outdoor materials out of the building and the indoor materials in the building. So it's critical to his business model. Didn't get any feedback from the staff, so wasn't prepared to make any changes. Felt pretty good about our meeting a month ago.
Well, so if
I don't have any compromises, if you will, because we had a good meeting a month ago and we doctored it up, did the drone footage, revisited our drawings, got everything buttoned down, and we're ready to order it. And if you've driven by the property, I think it looks great. We've done a lot of work. There's a lot more coming. We're spending about $1.5 million on the inside coming up. So it's a pretty big investment. Property's clean, new parking lot, lighting looks great. Looks pretty good. A lot better than it ever has, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So
I believe you
this
had a
isn't big-
question.
so.
I don't. I just wanted to give the staff a chance to clarify if we could.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I, if I may?
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to say, Mr. Schuman, at the last meeting where we had the ICR, it was brought up, the 0.9 acres particularly. There was, I can't say for certain how much it was emphasized or not, but there was mention of the 2,500 square foot maximum in relation to the proposed 0.9 acres. And I just wanted to reiterate as well, pretty much that's what our recommendation for denial was based off of, was particularly that area requirement and as well as the front yard requirement. Well,
when I came here a month ago, I had a lot more material because I drove around the township for a couple hours and saw many examples of situations like this where there's large outdoor fencing areas a lot bigger than 2,500 square feet. I didn't come back with all that material because I figured tonight was more about aesthetics, picking colors, and moving on. So I didn't get any of that feedback.
We did talk about the Moeller distributors at 127 and Kemper.
Right.
Could you guys speak to what that is in terms of the height, the type of material, and just for clarification?
So Mueller has 4-foot wrought iron fencing in the front parking lot, and it contains their building materials that are subject to weather, and it's a very similar plan that Mr. Sherman has insofar as frontage and fencing. But I know last month when we discussed at the ICR, it was front yard prohibition and the chain link and the slats were all discussed. And I would probably characterize the staff recommendation along the lines of our duty to point out what the zoning resolution says for your recommendation, and then it's up to you to decide whether you would like to grant that variance, given that this is a PD. You would have that authority to do that, and I think was the position we were taking on this, that it was clear of what the space requirements were, what the fencing requirements were. You seemed amenable to his ICR proposal and discussion the last meeting, and so our role is more to look at the code and say, here's what it says, and I think that was why it was recommended that way. So he is correct that there are some facilities in the township that have similar type fencing. I know he brought up Duke as one of them, and that is a PD. And so that was approved in that PD. If you wanted to do the same thing on this PD, you have that right to do that. Muller is a different type of fencing. It's 4 foot, and it's wrought iron. So I don't know how they keep their material from walking off, but that's for them to decide.
All right, so at this time, let's go ahead and do a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. And for myself, this has been such a blighted property for years and years. Even when Kroger operated it, it was a mess. And driving past it yesterday and turning into the parking lot and seeing the building and the improvements, you guys have done a really good job on updating this property and making it a benefit to that part of our community rather than what has sat there for years. So I'm in full support of this. So I just wanted to go on record. Does anyone have any last questions or any comments before we entertain a motion?
I'm just curious, Mr. Sherman, if there's any wiggle room in terms of the area. It seems like, I don't know, it just seems to me that, the code says 5% and we're going up to 67%, from 2,500 square feet to 39,000 square feet. I understand the improvements to the site, and it just seems like if we're going to exceed it, could we exceed it less? You had mentioned, I'm sorry, just one more thing. You had mentioned that you'd built in plans for future growth into it. If you didn't include that, I wonder what our square footage would be, how much we'd be exceeding.
That's a great question. I didn't come here tonight thinking
Sure.
about compromise, but that's a great question. So I think in their calculation that probably includes that future triangle. We're not doing that.
Mm.
So it's not going to be that kind of square footage. It's
Mr. Becker, can you clarify that for
Yep.
us? Like
That
confirm?
would take it down from 39,000 to 28,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, gentlemen, any additional questions or comments? Any conditions that we want to put on the property, should we approve it? No? All right, so would anyone like to make a motion?
I motion that we approve the amendment as presented.
And I will second.
Second.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, you too. All right, so on our agenda, we do not have an informal concept review. There is no old business, no new business. Under administrative report, I know we have none, but I did just want to mention that we're coming up at the end of the year. So we should start looking at our zoning commission to make sure no one is expiring their term.
Yeah, make sure you put that last two. At my age, I always
Not
worry about that.
termination, their term on the commission. Dang it. Any announcements? You have none, correct?
Yeah, only one that just continues to stay in front of us is that we are in process of reviewing the drafts of our new comprehensive zoning resolution rewrite, and so we'll be working and meeting with our contractors, KZF and Zonco, and probably the first of the year, and grind through that, and hopefully to have something before you know, in the first few months of 2024.
And then, in regards to that, we had spoken with staff at a previous meeting about a year and a half ago that we were hoping to have it come to us in some smaller chunks if there are a lot of revisions, so that way we can kind of drill in. So if we could not bring the whole zoning resolution to one meeting, that would be great. We have a lot of people terming, so he might not stay awake that long.
Just one question. At our last meeting, we had some discussion about items that were just tabled and we just didn't have any business on them, one being the marijuana issue. Can you guys speak to where that is in terms of, it's still somewhere in our agenda, kind of what your thoughts are with regard to that issue?
So that one in particular, we've had discussions internally with the administration, and the latest iteration was that given that the Board of Trustees voted to approve the ban for zoning certificates in all commercial districts, that the zoning map, the zoning has been changed for recreational marijuana. We wanted to ask if the zoning commission would still like to go forward with that, given the presumption that whatever proposal you would bring forward would likely be denied.
So just so I'm clear, so we had a public hearing that we tabled before it went to the voters. It went to the voters. The voters for the entire state of Ohio said yes to recreational marijuana, and the trustees subsequently, if I'm understanding this correctly, said no, not in our township.
The trustees voted no, not in our township, before it went to the voters.
Okay, so that was the whole March discussion. Is that correct, or is that another vote?
It started in March and then ended
Okay.
a couple weeks ago.
The
Yeah.
trustees brought it up in March and said, can we have a text amendment?
Yes,
And
that is
so
correct. It finally landed to us sometime in August.
Yep, August.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, after you took it up in September and then sent that to the trustees as a denial, they approved the text amendment. And so that's where the zoning resolution stands now.
So we recommended to deny banning, and they overturned us.
Okay.
So
So I
the
wasn't
question from
up to speed on
staff
that issue.
is, do we still want to entertain amending it, knowing that even though we were unanimous in a denial, if we go through the work, that chances are they're going to overturn us again?
My position is I think we've already sent our recommendation on to the trustees. If they made their own decision, then that's a political decision that they've made. I don't need to bring it back up.
Okay, gentlemen, yes, you're saying yes? Yes to just drop it?
Yeah.
Is that what that yes means?
Do you need an official response from us to kind of close that public hearing and be done with that issue then?
It actually could be addressed similarly to the Article 4 changes that had been discussed and a motion made, and there was no official motion by you to drop it because it just was going to die anyway. The administration did not support that motion.
Okay.
So similarly...
So you've not answered my question. Do you need something
similarly,
official from us or
do
not? You do not?
We do not need anything.
Okay.
If I might refer to one other text amendment that the zoning commission voted on and approved, sent it to the trustees, and they voted that down. And that was the violations and penalties. They believe that putting the lawn guy that works for the apartment rental property owners in jail was a bridge too far. And so we have begun working on that, and we will bring that back to you with some changes that we feel that are more reasonable, but still provide the township and code enforcement with a better opportunity to force compliance on absentee landlords and rental properties that don't meet code. So that
And
that-
still
that should be-
keep some teeth and
Yes.
some fines.
Yes.
Because during that public hearing, our zoning enforcement team was pretty vocal about the need to have some more meat in our code, because I can drive around my neighborhood and point out house after house after house that me personally, I can report all the time, and it just hits a dead wall because we have no teeth. So I'm respectfully asking to make it as tough as possible to make a difference. And if we're going to bring on I forget the name, so forgive me on this, a zoning enforcement board, whatever we're calling it.
Code Enforcement Review Board, CURB.
Curb, there you go. We don't want to curb the curb with just pats on the wrist. We want to provide them with some ammunition as well.
I think this will be a comprehensive approach to we're going to be making appointments to the CURB in the December Board of Trustees meeting. And then we'll have that, plus we'll be able to bring to you in around that same time, hopefully, these proposals for violations and penalties, and to strengthen those. And I think all of those tools together are going to provide us a greater opportunity to be able to force compliance with those that refuse.
And if they don't, we'll come back at you for some jail time to be put back in there. All right, so next meeting, December 19th, and we have items on that. Do you know?
So far, that would just be violations and penalties.
I'm fine with meeting to talk about violations and penalties, or do you guys want to take the month of December off and wait till January?
If there's no other business, so public business, then, in other words, I would call that an internal
Okay,
business. I would like to not meet in December, but if there is external business, by all means, we should meet, in my opinion.
okay.
Yeah, if somebody made the deadlines with their applications, then we would feel obligated to meet that. But at this point, I don't believe anybody has.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. So then it'll be to be determined. We
Correct.
may
We'll review
not
that.
have a meeting. Okay,
Just to ensure
all right.
that we have no applications.
All right, so picking up the gavel. So thanks to everyone for being here tonight. We do want to wish everyone a healthy and happy Thanksgiving. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.